So, guys, I wanted you to bring the audience up to speed on just what digitally enabled apparel is and how it's different than what we might have heard about in the past. Like, what is connected apparel technology? How did we get here?
Yeah, I can take that one. So basically what we'll be talking about, it's a little different maybe than what most people think of wearables and wearable electronics. We're talking about today in particular. We'll be kind of introducing YKK Touchlink, but we'll be talking through it in sort of in this idea of, okay, how do you take static products and actually give them some sort of, right? And offer benefits beyond just the actual performance benefits of apparel. And not doing it in a way that's like powered, as most people think of wearable technologies, where they need a power source, they need that kind of thing. But really, how can we, in an affordable way, bring a product to life and actually bring more value to that product and to the user experience?
Right, that's a great answer. Yeah, do you want to touch on that also, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, as we started developing LifeKey, it became really apparent that, with technology, it's easy to just pile on. And you put a battery with a circuit board, and now you can do more things and more things, and pretty soon it's a smartwatch or a smartphone. What's hard to do is to make devices that are simple, that do only what we need them to do. And so it became pretty apparent that wearables were a really good opportunity to embed technology into products that isn't necessarily more notifications, more things to charge, more things to worry about, more stress. How can we make things that are almost invisible, that are wearable, that just work into our garments or wristbands or shoes or helmets or whatever it might be? And so that's kind of the direction we came from, and I think it's a really good opportunity.
So do you guys consider this a new technology, and are you really introducing what you feel is a new technology, and what problems are you solving?
Well, NFC itself is not a new technology. So we should probably kind of set up with what we're actually doing, and especially with YKK and the Touchlink thing. So basically, NFC is everybody that has a debit card, when you tap it to pay for something, that's NFC. So it's something everybody already has. NFC stands for near field communication, and it's just a way to kind of seamlessly convey information, right? That you don't need power for, and it's something that everybody has access to with your phone or your mobile device or whatever. It's a part of our everyday lives that people maybe don't even understand or realize that is what that is. So you can kind of think of it as maybe like a QR code on steroids sort of thing. But the NFC chip itself is just sort of a unique identifier. It's almost like a fingerprint. So it's just this passive thing that if you actually enable it and point it in the right direction, then anybody that's a user can actually understand, or get the information, glean the information out of that. So what we did with kind of a three-way combination of need from my place, the ability for YKK to bring something to market like this, and then Jason's understanding of not only the technology but also the platform. We've kind of put all those three things together to bring that to the masses. And so you can't really see it here, but that's just a zipper puller. But the NFC chip is actually embedded within the zipper puller, and did that for a number of reasons.
And I don't know, maybe that's a good time for Brian to jump in and tell us, like, how did this technology end up in a zipper?
Well, one of the problems with NFCs, or I shouldn't say problems, is how do we put NFCs in a package that can withstand the abuses that it's going to get through everyday living? How do you have a package that can wash laundry, can put through freezing temperatures, boiling temperatures, wide range, and keep them on operating? And that's where putting into a zipper puller made perfectly logical sense. And the other thing that it accomplished for us is it was something that we already needed to put on garments to begin with. So we weren't adding another doodad, right? We were just embedding it into a necessary component on a product. And so a lot of times in engineering, simplicity is the most elegant thing, right? So to be able to put it into that zipper pull seemed like the most elegant option for us to embed that technology.
You have to adapt the zipper pull a little differently now.
There, it looks very much like a standard zipper puller, but there's an incredible amount of engineering that we had to do on our part to ensure that we could get it into that small form factor, protect it from the elements, and make sure that it was going to function the way that we wanted it to function.
Still be scannable.
Still be scannable, still be operatable, still be able to go ahead and address all the forces that it's going to have through its normal use.
Okay, great. So, and we're going to talk about how these products get onto a piece of apparel. I'm also curious, and maybe Jason can explain to us what other types of functionalities and applications are currently being used with this product, and what else is coming, maybe. And
Yeah.
then we'll get into specifics on the apparel.
Yeah, for sure. We started out, the use case was really around safety. I had a friend that was a cyclist. I'm like, what do you do if something happens? And he had an engraved bracelet. And I'm like, really? Like, that's where we're at. It's like 100-year-old technology, if you will. I'm like, there's a lot we can do to store and access information. So LifeKey was sort of born out of the idea that I want a device that doesn't require batteries, that I can put on me. I can tap with a smartphone, or someone else can tap with their smartphone and access emergency medical information, notify my contacts, and all that. And so as we started to build that out, we're like, this technology is really cool, but nobody can use it. They have to build whatever they want to build. It's like the early days of the web, or imagine a phone without an operating system. And so what LifeKey did is we went out and we built an operating system. It's called TapOS. And the idea is we want to have all this functionality around this technology. And so what kinds of things can we do with it? And so quickly we learned that people that wear the technology can tap to share their location. I can let someone know I'm going for a ride or a run, or my kid got to soccer practice, or his friend's house, or whatever. And so from there, all these new functionalities sort of emerge. And if you think about active lifestyles, apparel, whatever it may be, what kinds of things do I need to do? Do I want to tap to pay with this? Passive technology that doesn't require batteries or charging, like an Apple Watch or a Garmin or something I have to sort of think about all the time? What about things that just work for me? Can I unlock my car? Can I start my Tesla? What are the things we can do with that technology? And so that's where it is. It's getting very deep. We have entire fire departments that put our technology on their helmets. We have obviously garment integrations. We have dogs that wear our Fetch pet tags that you tap with a phone, sends the owner a notification. That's in all sorts of pet retailers nationwide. So we really think this operating system can power a whole new level of experience for consumers and first responders and all sorts of people.
So pets are already using it.
Pets are already using it, yes.
Okay, cool. So Trent, why don't you tell us a little bit about your brand that you started? Maybe quickly, why did you endeavor to do this new undertaking, and then why Touchlink?
Yeah, sure. So I started a brand called Artilect. The idea is kind of being equal parts art and intelligence. It's really an innovation-driven performance apparel company. We're looking and focusing on sort of forward and future technologies instead of kind of looking at the normal rules of especially the outdoor industry that I've been involved with literally my whole life. And I've always been really fascinated by how do you integrate technology and performance. We launched last year, and we're doing the full kind of integrated apparel system this year. And the big problem I have, especially when you're trying to sort of change some of the rules of the outdoor industry, I'm building every single fabric literally from the ground up. I'm building every component, every insulation. I'm bringing things from different areas and putting them together in new ways. And a lot of that stuff is, things that you can't actually see. So if it's Impel super hydrophobic DWR, you can't see it. If we're working with Allied Down and Expedrive, or Lavalon, European wool, those kinds of things, they're all hidden within the garment. Right?
And you call those invisible technologies.
I call those invisible technologies, but they're really, really incredibly important to what we're doing to try to look forward and integrate new technologies. And my big problem is, especially, again, things you can't see, how do we talk about those? How do we inform the consumer? How do we do all those kinds of things? And so my thought was, okay, well, can we use technology to solve the problem of conveying technology? So it's kind of this thing. And I met Jason, I'm trying to think when we met. It was back when I was at Black Diamond, when you were doing LifeKey, like when you first started that, and we were talking about NFC, and I'm just like, the light went on of like, oh, this is something that I can actually use not only to have this secondary safety component and value while you own the product, but it's also something I can use then to bring the product to life and actually talk consumers through the technologies while they're standing in the store. And so that's when I went to Brian and went to YKK and said, hey, have you thought about doing this in a zipper puller? Because I mean, of course, you can have 20 pages of hang tags and all the languages and all that stuff, and it's not really that sustainable, and also people don't really dig that deep. But if you actually bring this incredible user experience to life at the point of sort of sale, it would, if I'm not physically myself standing there telling you all the cool stuff that you can't see, then you're not going to have a big enough hang tag to try to do that. So the thought was, okay, well, where can I put NFC? Because Jason and I were working already on integrating LifeKey and all those, and that's when I kind of just thought, oh, well, what is another problem we can solve? A big part of that is authentication as well. You can go on to Alibaba or wherever and buy any brand jacket that's not real, and then you can't see the technology, so how do you know they're real? How do you know that this...
It's actually Gore-Tex.
Actually, whatever it is, yeah, how do you actually know that that's what it is? And the other thing about NFC is it's a unique identifier, and you can actually use it to authenticate product. So knowing that YKK had a problem with more zippers in the world that are probably fake than real, that's just me guessing. But it solved all kinds of issues, and it pulled all the technology together in one place.
That's really interesting. And then, so it could replace hang tags.
That would be the goal.
And do you remember the stat or have that in your head of how much waste is done in hang tags? I know a few brands have really launched into reducing hang tags, and it's an astonishing amount of
way more than is necessary. That's for sure.
So now maybe it might be a good opportunity for Brian to tell us kind of some of the design considerations and how, if other brands are interested in implementing this technology, how do they get started?
Yeah, so the design implications and the limitations are really not that great. We do have some form factors that we can't get too small, but for the most part, they're nothing that most designers can't work around. I know working with Trent on the pole design that he's using works just like a standard TPU pole design that we have. So there's really no limitations from a design perspective, which is a beautiful thing. Designers hate having limitations, right? They hate having guardrails put on their aesthetic design. And with this, the only limitation is we can't make it out of metal. It has to be made out of a plastic material, either TPU or some other type of hard plastic. But outside of that, there really is no other limitations to it for the most part, which is a beautiful thing. It just allows the designers to still have their full freedom, still go ahead and have all their aesthetic talents displayed, but there are no real limitations.
Unless the piece doesn't have a zipper, and we talked a little bit about that. So what will we do in those cases? Or how are you using it when there's no zipper?
We do it in different ways. I mean, obviously, if it's got a center front zipper, that's the best part for us because then we can bring those other things to life. We do, in packaging, hang tags, boxes, we do this little yellow sticker is NFC as well. So we've really tried to embrace the technology. And I think the other point on that, especially with the Touchlink, the YKK thing, it's not something that we're trying to be exclusive on. This is just, it's something that if everybody can adopt this, we could tell better stories, we could get closer to the consumer, and we could eliminate a lot of those issues of excessive packaging and those kinds of things that just are kind of antiquated.
And I think the other part is we've been working on integrations for a while, and there's lots of ways to do that. So we're working on fabric technologies to integrate it with fabric. There's a lot of innovation happening, believe it or not, even though the core fundamental technology is old, 20 years old or whatever. What we're doing now to bring it, to make it washable and make it durable and all those things, make it work in fabrics, make it fireproof, make it like all these things, make it for dogs and make it for kids. That hasn't been done. So those are all challenges we've been sort of gradually overcoming. And as we work with different brands, they all have different requirements. And so we're learning all that.
Did you guys want to say something about cost too? And does this product add cost to a garment?
Sure, it's going to add cost to a product, but the cost is actually relatively small compared to the value that it gives to the product. And that's the important thing. There's always trade-offs to everything. And so the cost is actually very moderate. If we calculate it out to a retail cost, it might add maybe $5 to $8 to a retail product, which is really not much when you think about it for the type of value that it adds. I mean, we think about safety functionality, you think about this ability for brands to connect with their customers on an ongoing basis. It adds a tremendous amount of value. And one of the things we haven't talked about this technology is because the core elements of it are in the cloud. The product you buy today can have more value and functionality 5 years from now than it can have today. Because we can add to functionality because it's all software based.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of hard to wrap your head around, but I mean, the potential of this technology is ridiculous. And when we talk about connected garments, right now, when you buy a whatever it is and you walk out of the store, that's where the relationship kind of ends with the brand. Like you're kind of done. But now there's the ability for you to tap on this, register it. If you download the LifeKey app, now you have a communication with the brand. The brand can tell you in 3 months, here's what you want to do to waterproof this, or here's a way to recycle this, or here's what to do when it's end of life. Here's where you can resell it on a secondary market or whatever. But the amount of brand value that's going to be gained from this is well outweighs the cost. We're going to end up shifting from marketing dollars that used to be done with finding email lists and doing all this other stuff to now we know where people are tapping our products. I have a map where I can see where our wristbands are being tapped at any given time, or our dog tags or whatever. And so it's really fascinating data. It's crazy data to be able to see where someone lives that bought a product at Denver REI, for example.
Yeah, and so I guess 2 points on that. The cost thing, we actually have figured out a way to make it basically cost neutral, because if you're looking at a hang tag package that's 85 cents or 90 cents or whatever that may be for something that's really in depth, and then you're looking at the normal cost of just a custom puller, we can actually be neutral to that cost and have we can be much more effective. I think the other thing that's really important, and Jason was just talking about it, it's kind of like 3 pillars of the product experience. There's before you buy it, there's when you own it, and then there's when you're done with it. And so what we were really trying to do is, okay, how do we affect each of those things from a front end perspective? Of course, how can we tell people about our product? How can we tell them about these technologies you can't see? How can we tell them about the brand and actually bring that to life? And so if anybody, we didn't really cover what it does, and if you go up and you scan it, and again, this is native to anybody's smartphone after like an iPhone 6 or something like that, I don't know. So you don't need an app, you don't need anything, you just go and it's just like a QR code, but you don't need to turn on the camera, you just bring your phone, wake it up and touch it. But so we can hit all 3 of those pillars. Before, again, we talk about product, we talk about the brand, we talk about all the things that you can and can't see and what the benefits are. But that can be done because your phone knows where you are at all times. As we go forward into the products, we're not doing it right this second, but it can, obviously, your phone knows where you are. It can launch the experience in your native language, right? It's ultimately expandable. It's insane. It's just, the problem we have right now is, okay, keeping it limited. So what we've tried to do is kind of, the first goal is replace the hang tag, but the secondary part of that, and this is what Brian was talking about, is that added value of, the safety component. But for us as a brand, the way we win is not only getting you to buy the product, but getting you to add value along the way. So to be able to use it then, once you're done with the buying process, then the secondary value pops in, which hang tags don't do. You can register your warranty, you can opt into our social media if you want, you can get to our customer service, if you need to return something or get a repair, something like that, you can enable all of that just from the tap, and then there's the LifeKey functionality. There's then literally then it becomes the rabbit hole of, oh, we could do this, and we could do that, we could do this, we could do city guides, we could do trail maps, we could do any sort of integration, because your jacket always knows where you are. And then what Jason was talking about, at the end of life,
let's talk about that a little bit, the circularity.
the circularity, and it's so.
There's also, you guys were also calling it a product passport of sorts, right?
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, no, and so for us, this is a very big, important component. We see this as one of the tools in our toolbox around sustainability. We're this era where we are really moving into new business models in a lot of ways, right? Resale, rental, and then end of life, how we deal with end of life. And so this now gives us a tool that allows us to work well in all those marketplaces. So rental, for example, is incredibly complicated, right? You need to track product at the product level. You need to be able to track it from your warehouse to your customer, and then from that customer back to you. Well, this gives you that ability to do it. It's already ingrained into the product. So you don't need to worry about somebody removing a tag and losing track of what that product is. It's already permanently attached to it. Resale, another huge emerging market. This gives you an opportunity to know when that product was produced, where it was produced, what it contains, and who owned it before you did. You wouldn't have never been able to know that if the tags have been removed or if there's no name tags. So it gives you this incredible amount of information. And then most importantly is end of life, okay? Product comes at the end of its life to a recycling center. Recycler's big question is, what is this made of? What does it contain?
Where can I take it?
Which processing stream am I going to put it into? Now they can go ahead and get all that information right at their fingertips. Oh, it's 100% polyester, it contains this, we can use this particular recycling stream. So we see it as a very important tool moving forward to help enable these business models.
Okay, and then let's stick with Brian here for a second. Does YKK have plans to expand using Touchlink beyond zippers?
We are looking at other applications that we can use this technology on. So obviously as a fastener company, we make a wide range of fasteners, snaps, buttons, buckles, things along those lines. And so, yes, we'll look at other, applications that make sense. It's going to take a lot of time to get them to market, but there are other opportunities where we can utilize this technology. I think the big important thing right now is these are very early days in this technology, right? And I think all of us up here don't have any illusion of how long it's going to take for this to really take hold in the mainstream. But it has so many opportunities, it has so much value, and the fact that this is a forward-looking technology as opposed to a backwards-looking technology, it just means we have more opportunities going forward and more use cases that we haven't even thought of yet at this point in time. And Trent and I laugh about this because, in our career, both of us have worked with old connected technologies. I'm sure you've got this, just a drawer full of broken iPod controllers and phone controllers and heaters and all these other elements that were dated the moment we shipped those products out.
Yeah, that's a super good point. I did, I don't remember what year it was the 90s, with Burton. I did the first soft switch, for iPod control. Before that, we were designing pockets to put CD players and jackets.
Wait, does everybody know what an iPod is?
It's kind of like your phone,
making sure
only it doesn't make calls.
Check it. Yeah, no calls.
Yeah, and so the problem there was, it was super cool, but it was like a $1,200 jacket that didn't do a great job controlling your technology, and it didn't do a great job being a jacket because all of those costs and all of the stuff made you had to make compromises in each area of that. And the other problem was if somebody's going to spend $1,200 on a jacket, they're stuck with that thing, and if anything else goes wrong, they're super expensive, I was saying. So it was just one of those things. Like, you don't necessarily want to be tied to just that one piece of, weather conditions change, things change, and you just sunk every penny you have in a jacket that controls your iPod. So that was the other kind of thinking here. It's like, okay, we don't want anything with batteries or moving parts beyond the fact that it's a zipper. What can we do passively again to make it something that doesn't that you don't feel bad about it if you do pass it on or something like that. It's not this crazy, insane investment. I think the other side then is, that opportunity again to utilize it in so many different ways. You're not just stuck with that one thing. If the weather changes, you have a different jacket that has it on there, whatever. It didn't cost you a whole lot to get involved, but you can take that same level of safety, the same level of performance, and the same level of sort of connectivity with you at all times.
So on that, if you have two jackets, say, and you have jacket, how does it then update or interface?
Yeah, I mean, you basically have a profile in LifeKey, and you can have as many kids, pets, things, jackets, garments connected to it as you want, and you can maintain all those, and they all sort of point back to you. One thing I was going to mention that Trent said there that sparked the idea is, we sell our products, wristbands, dog tags, etc., to national retailers, whether it be Nordstrom, Target, Petco, all these, or PetSmart, all these different brands or retailers. But what's interesting about the outdoor industry to me is fundamentally what we're trying to do is help people untether from their phone. We envision a world where this isn't attached to my head all the time. How can we sort of untether from that? I don't need the Facebook notification or Instagram notification every 5 seconds, but I do need some tech. I need it to pay for me, when I need to pay for something. I need to check in with somebody. I need to do simple things. So what we're trying to do is we envision a world where we can have these quiet electronics, these things that aren't requiring batteries and power. And so it's going to take a while, to Brian's point, to realize that world, but we're building towards that world. But that's what makes the outdoor industry so unique that way, is we should be interested in unplugging for a minute to focus on the thing we're trying to enjoy, which happens to be outside. And so having a cell signal isn't always possible. Having things charged or ways to charge things isn't always possible. Maybe we don't have to buy as big a backpack because we don't need as many batteries, right? So that's where we're trying to get with this. And the first step is to integrate it into the things we already wear.
And another thing, and these things that I've always had problems with over the years, there's super cool, incredible technology, which is super great, but it's been somewhat limited in the past to obviously snow recovery kind of situations. But Reco has now really expanded their technology, and now they can actually scan huge swaths of forest from a drone or a helicopter. So if you're lost in the forest now, it's not something where you're buried in an avalanche. It's actually they can go out there with a helicopter and do 50 meters wide at a time, these sweeps. The problem is, who knows if you're Reco enabled, right? So what we can do now is we can connect Reco. You can say, oh, this product, oh, it's Reco enabled. So they will spend the money, they will send the troops, because you can just opt in saying, hey, the jacket I'm wearing, yeah, Reco, boom, I'm leaving the trailhead, boom, this tells me where I am. It's your last point of, the time, and if you don't return, they know where you were last, and they know to send the Reco troops and spend the money. So it allows us to really pull together a whole bunch of things and put it all in one place for safety and performance.
Yeah, and to put a finer tip on that, what LifeKey is a platform. And so things like Reco integration, easy to plug in. If I want to tap on my climbing shoe and launch my Spotify playlist, sweet. There's so many applications. Tap on a dog tag and get them an Uber. Why not, right? It's all possible.
Very cool. So that kind of takes us into the future a little bit. Do you guys want to say anything about kind of where you see the technology going in the next 2, 5, 10 years, or do you want to open it up to questions?
I'll take a stab at the future state, right? So I do see this as being something that gets integrated into a wider range of products. And this is part of a digitalization of garments that we're seeing all over the place. And we're seeing it in a number of areas. We're seeing luxury brands trying to authenticate their products to deal with their counterfeit issues. We see people addressing their circularity issues and trying to have information either using QR codes in products or NFC chips in products. So this technology is going to be adopted by a wide swath of the marketplace. this, not only in the outdoor industry, but in general apparel and luxury markets as well, because it has real world use cases. There's a practicality to it, and it's a low cost system to use. So it's just, we're on kind of, I think, the start of the way, right, of where we're going to go with this technology. And this is just going to be one of, I think, a lot of other type of digitally connected technologies that are going to be ingrained into products. I think we're at the cusp of a new age of innovation in materials and technologies that is going to sweep through the apparel industry and hard goods in general.
I mean, future-wise, this device is amazing. It gives us all superpowers. We're all sort of equal because we have this device. But we got to carry this device. We got to deal with this device. We got to buy a new one. We got to fix the screen. We got to charge it. We got to find the cable that works. It's not optimal. You know, we're past the wow factor of the smartphone. In my mind, I want the smartphone to be in the cloud. I want it to follow me around like the drone in my kid's video game that does everything, and I talk to it, and it does that. And so that's the world I envision. And so then our wearables, our garments, our shoes, our jackets, our whatever, they're all peripherals. And they're things we put on and we use. You know, why not tap a monitor and see when my flight is instead of look at a list of 85 flights that disappears before I can find my flight? Why don't we just tap the screen and see what ours is? Why don't we tap to pay? Better yet, why don't I walk into a store, tap on the jacket and buy it? Like, that's all possible today. That's not super far. We just need brands that want to adopt it and go with us because we've already done the work. It's there, we can build it, but we need some brave souls out there to do it. So I'm excited by it. I think the future of it is super cool. And there's going to be better technologies, more connectedness, more Wi-Fi technologies. All those things are going to happen, and we just need to be ready for it and position ourselves for it.
Yeah, and the thing I would say too is, I mean, from a future perspective, this allows me to be totally transparent. You know, it allows me to talk to a consumer one-on-one. It lets me tell them that, you know, if they do merino wool, what farm is that grown on? You know, there's all these different things we can do. The traceability side of it is super exciting. But the other thing, just to, again, be there for the consumer, I mean, for what we're doing, again, we're a performance apparel system. Usually if you buy that, if you say you buy it at REI, you buy, you know, wherever it is, all of the stores have their own loyalty programs, that kind of thing. For me, the way we're building product to really work in conjunction, everything works great by itself, but it really works better together. That's the whole point of what we're doing. But to be able to actually help that consumer on that journey and actually not only complete their kit, but also incentivize them to do that. I don't care where they buy it. They can be part of our loyalty. You know, they can buy it on the secondary market, which that would never before be part of the loyalty program at all. Again, I don't need to know where you bought it or how you got it, but to be part of what we're doing, and then also be able to evolve, as we've talked about a little bit, with the future, because the NFC chip has no information in it but a fingerprint. So everything's on the cloud, so it's infinitely updatable or expandable or changeable. That jacket you bought 3 years ago, you can come up to the new experience just by tapping on it, and we deliver you the new experience. So it's in that personalization that Jason's talking about that, you know, and again, also the thing that we didn't even talk about, this is all opt-in. NFC is not like RFID, people can't, that's why it's near field communication, you literally have to be right next to it.
It's not like a ski pass.
It's not like a ski
tracking
pass, but this would be a great way to do a ski pass and to pay for your pizza and beer. I mean, it'll be like that. You know, you can do that, but you can just turn it off too. You can opt out. If you scan it, opt out, you're done. So the privacy thing that we haven't even touched on.
Of course, people will be concerned.
You choose, you control it, you're in. But again, if you want to be part of this, it's something that we then can deliver an exceptional experience and transparent experience.
That's a lot of aspects there, from the omni-channel to the traceability to the recycling. All really exciting. Do we want to take some questions?
No questions, come on. Come on. I can't see any smiles. Everybody has masks. I don't know if we're doing good. It would be rough to be a comedian these days.
No questions? I think we feel good about that.
Well, yeah, and I think I'll just kind of wrap
We
up.
got one. Oh, we got one. We got one.
You need a power requirement for the chip?
Power requirements.
How, say it again, sorry.
Power requirements?
No power.
No power.
Zero. Yep, and that's what's cool. When we talk about tracking and all those things, there's all these misconceptions about chips and microchips and all this stuff. If it doesn't have power, it can't track you because it doesn't have power, right? So NFC, just like the chip in your credit card, is passive. And so what it's doing is it's using the radio frequency from your phone to power it for that split second to exchange the data. And so, yeah, there's no power requirements, and that's part of what makes it awesome. I don't have to think about charging this thing or having a new connector.
And that's what makes it like washable and
Totally. Yep. Good question.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to also mention too is that technology is somewhat open source to some degree too. So if you look at Touchlink, it's software agnostic. In other words, we're not tied in, the technology is not tied into any specific software per se. And that's the beautiful thing. It requires software to function, but it's not tied into any specific software. So what that enables us is to have an ecosystem of software providers and partners that can go ahead and meet the needs of our brand partners. So right now, LifeKey is one of our partners. Eon out of New York is a partner. Verifier is a partner. So we have a number of different software partners that can help our brand partners meet their needs, to meet what they want to do with the technology.
Or could like a large brand like a Columbia Sportswear come along and develop their own kind of app or software platform?
Sure, they could if they wanted to, but they'd be foolish to. Why not work with people that are already expert in that field?
Well, I've got some input on this too, because, you know, having kind of brought this to life with Jason first and then bringing it to YKK, and while it's totally true there's a number of ways to engage, it's not easy, because where in the process, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do. I mean, if you're trying to actually replace the hang tag and at the SKU level identify that product, that gender, that size, that color, that style, you know, where do you do that in the process? I mean, it's really tough. Once you do that, once you scan that and it gets you to the product, where does that take you? What experience is that? You know, for me, I want to be a technology-driven company. I don't want to be a tech company, right? So it's got to be really easy. And a lot of the people in this room, obviously, are product makers. So the practicality component of it for making a garment, I mean, of course, there's the cost thing you got to get past. There's all that stuff, but the content and how do you deliver that content is tough. And so Jason and I have been working for a number of years now to actually make that piece of the puzzle simple. And again, there are other suppliers, but the only place you're going to find some of that secondary functionality as well, and that safety component and all that is through the LifeKey side of it, which is why I got so excited about it in the first place and sort of decided to try to put this whole package together, because that's really hard. I can't be Instagram and I can't be Facebook. I can't keep up. So leave it to the tech guys who are actually doing that and integrating all that stuff together and make it easy. So I'm definitely open. I know Brian knows all this too, that if people want to adopt the technology and want to know some of the finer points of making it happen, I'm easy to find. I mean, I'm just on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, whatever. Send me a note and I'll help you
MySpace?
navigate MySpace. I've got a hanger MySpace. So, but no, I think if you need to get to me, I'm easily accessible and I'm happy to help, because again, for me, I want to build critical mass in this thing, and that's why we're not trying to be, controlling this technology, because we're not. We really want this to be something that benefits everybody. It allows me to tell my story better the more people that know about it and know how to use it. So again, we're not trying to be, controlling or crazy about this. And to Brian's point of it being kind of open source, that's a good thing. In this case, we help bring it to market, but we by no means want to be the only game in town. Then we have to educate everybody on how to use this as well. So We want people to adopt this. More is better.
Critical mass
More
of
is better.
educating.
Absolutely.
So you heard it here first. You all have now direct access to Trent.
At Trent Bush. No, no, it's easy. Whatever. I mean, this isn't like that big of a crowd.
All right, cool. Any other questions?
No, quite like where Trent get his shoes, nothing? All right.
The internet.
Oh, she's got one. Winner.
So I'm curious how you're thinking of how to communicate the use of this to your consumer, like a QR code, you see it, you scan it, you know what to do. If it's in my zipper and it's an emergency situation, how does the consumer know how to do that?
Super good question. And that's, you know, a lot of this, especially when you're kind of making things up as you go along, those are the things that you just don't know. I mean, we've found that you have to be very literal. Here's this, do this, right? What we're doing we kind of have this transition period now because we're new. So we don't have a huge voice in the marketplace. So we have to use old technology. So what we're doing is we're using our hang tag, which is absolutely abbreviated, where it would have had to be pages and pages. Now we have the sort of overview of technologies, and then we have literally a picture of the Touchlink. You know, I designed it, so I've got the 3D of it. I just dropped that on the hang tag, and it literally, in bright yellow, it says, this jacket is, you know, to learn more about all these technologies. And it's got a picture of a phone tapping. So we're just keep it simple, stupid, right? That's the thing. It's just like, tell people exactly what it is and what to do.
Yeah, and to that point, there's a number of use cases. So one of the use cases is safety. That's where LifeKey was born. And our stuff has obviously different, we can do all kinds of things with messaging. You turn it inside out for instructions. It's on the back of a dog tag. It's got sort of a cool symbol that looks medical. And then we're educating first responders as that happens. However, you know, the zipper is a unique thing. It's little. The idea was we wanted it to look like a zipper puller. And so a lot of what's baked into there is the use case for the consumer. So the consumer sees it when they buy it, like they learn about it from the hang tag or whatever it may be. But then what can they just tap it? You know, there's a video right now on the demo that's in the YKK booth and on our website. You just tap it. You can check in with your, you know, I can drop a pin and let my wife know where I'm at. There's the demo that's on the site is a woman. She's walking, pushing a stroller. She taps. She lets her husband know she's out going for a walk. He's somewhere else in the world. It's that sort of thing. And I think as those use cases increase and we're tapping to pay with things from our garments and things like that, there's going to be different methods. It depends on the use, what the brand wants to do. If it's a sheer safety thing, let's make it red. Like, let's do some interesting things with it. I think the sky's the limit to how we can do that. We just have to be creative. Great question, though.
Yeah, it's super good. And I think the other thing that you're always, well, I shouldn't say this. I mean, you're not always going to need something on the garment. Like, in a perfect world, in Jason's perfect future, you'll put the jacket on, love it, buy it, walk out, right? The price tag, the ratings, all that stuff will be integrated right into the thing. But in the meantime, the rest of the world today, we all have to live in. You need a UPC code, you need those kinds of things. So there will always be, at least in the short term, that way to get there. You know, and let me look at QR codes.
Yeah, I was going to address the QR code thing because people talk about QR codes. I'm a design guy, sort of. I hate QR codes because they're ugly as can be. The problem with QR codes is a QR code is printed. So that means we have to worry about printing logic, which means we have to print one QR code that's the same for everything in this group or batch. With NFC, it's an individual authentication. The number is a serial number. They're talking about passports. I talk about it as a birth certificate for a product. This is a birth certificate. It has a unique fingerprint. It is unique to that specific product. That's different than QR codes. QR codes are marketing things, and we're already kind of over that. If I get another PDF menu that I can't look at on my phone, I'm going to freak out. So we have to be smart about how we do it, and that's why it just takes time. But I think NFC shows the most promise. Our phones have these superpowers. And so we can use the phone as that interface, but the interface is going to change. We're going to go to another place and tap on an NFC reader, and something's going to happen. And so that when that starts to take root, I think we're really going to have a different perspective.
You mean eventually as we move away from the phone as we know it?
Yeah, or expand on that a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but even in the today, you know, if you look at what happened with QR codes, like you're saying through COVID, people, you know, my parents had no idea what it was. Now they were forced to know what it is. NFC technology, this tap technology, that within a couple of years, it'll be everything you do. I mean, if you go to, a lot of you are designers and product makers, you go to Hong Kong and they have the octopus card, right? And so everything you do, you go to 7-Eleven, you tap the card to buy your thing. You go to the turnstile at the MTR, you tap that, you're on the train. There are other people, other places that are way ahead, but you know, the North American market in particular, this will be sort of ubiquitous, a way to exist in the next 2 to 3 years. So we just have to span that little piece. But it's, yeah, again, you've just got to be very, very in your face of what it is. You know, we were even thinking about just doing something that hangs from the zipper puller saying, tap me, come to life, you know, but we, again, in this idea of less stuff and less complexity, we're trying to just do it with something we're already doing.
Other questions?
First off, amazing what you guys are doing. Love it. I was wondering about the data. How are you displaying that to your consumers or brands? I know you mentioned the portal, but maybe you could talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, great question. That is like incredibly cool. Like an incredibly cool component to this whole thing that I don't even have my head fully wrapped around. As we start to see this data, as we start to see, you know, what we're talking about when we talk about data too is demographic type data. LifeKey itself is HIPAA compliant, we secure, we encrypt. You can't hack this thing to get data. It's very secure. To do payments, we have to be PCI compliant with banks, and I won't even open that can of worms. It's ginormous. But the consumer data is going to be fascinating, and so we have lots of plans for how that'll sort of work. It'll be sort of API based where a brand can plug into it and use that data in certain ways. There's going to be this ongoing communication mechanism that I'm excited about, just because I'm sort of a brand and marketing guy too. I love the ability for me to buy this Artilect garment, to tap on it, to now be sort of following. I mean, my jacket can talk to me. I mean, that's not my jacket can talk to me. And so what are brands going to do responsibly with that? You know, what's that going to look like? How is that relationship going to be? And I'm now part of this community. And do I want to see other people in this community? The other people that have this jacket? Do I want to walk up to someone else's jacket and tap it and something else happens because we're like Artilect homies or something? That's going to be really cool. But I think the jury's still out on exactly what that data is going to look like. Right now, we can see a map of everybody tapping, and that's really cool. But there's so much data. And, I mean, it's data science to the core, for sure.
And just real quick before you take that question, from a brand perspective, the cost of customer acquisition is huge, right? Again, going back to designing it correctly with cost neutrality in mind, all of a sudden your customer acquisition cost just went down to neutral, right? But you can, again, deliver this experience that's hopefully significantly better than they get from somebody else who they just took the hang tag and threw it in the trash. So, you know, the data side of it for us is not the driving factor, you know, because we really feel like there's value and communication and something we can deliver. But of course, like they're smart about it, there'll be a way to, just like anybody else, have that consumer acquisition and then deliver those products and services to them in a meaningful way.
So I just wanted to raise a question around the point you made about QR codes just a few moments ago. You said they couldn't be unique to the item, but I've actually seen cases where they are and they can be. So I'm just curious, you know, in that case, since a QR code can be the serial number for a garment, you know, why is it that NFC would still be superior if the QR code is just stupid simple for everybody to figure out how to use, especially after COVID?
Oh, I could take that one.
So QR codes are printed, right? And they go in, typically people go ahead and put them in the inside seam with that book of all the other hang tags that are in there that we all cut out as soon as we buy that garment. And that is the number one issue right there, is that those QR codes get removed by 90% of the people. They tear them off, throw them off, and that's it. That's the end of the experience. If they do stay on that garment long term, they, over time, that QR code gets degraded, gets destroyed through laundering, washing, things like that, and becomes harder and harder to read. That doesn't happen with the NFC. It is always there. It's always permanent. You're always going to be able to access it. The longevity and the durability of it is really that key element. And more importantly, with a QR code, if the QR code's on the inside of my garment, it's not really convenient for me to go ahead and trigger it to go ahead and use notifications or send out messages or things along those lines. Whereas if I have a zipper pull that's on the front of my jacket, it's easy access. I can put my jacket, tap it, and go, right? I don't have to go ahead, unzip the garment, try to find the tag. It's just so it's convenience, durability, those are the main reasons right there.
The other piece is QR is web-based, so it's very hard as a brand to sort of control that experience. You know, there's people putting shady QR codes everywhere that are, you know, stuff you don't want to download on your phone, but it's browser-based, so, you know, that opens kind of a new Pandora's box of things. You can't really control that experience as much. I mean, you can create a website, for example. What a lot of people do is they'll print a QR code and then they'll put an ID number with it. And the ID number is how you get the unique identifier. So you're loading a website and it says enter this ID. And it becomes about user experience. And I think QR code in the terms of packaging, maybe it makes more sense, but QR code in the terms of wearable devices and integrating into things, pets and things like that, we haven't found it to be, you know, and, you know, we surveyed a lot of pets and they all said they didn't like QR codes.
Yeah, and the big deal, and again, all of those things are totally true, and what Jason was just talking about, for me, it's authentication, because a QR code can be replicated, you know, infinitely. You can just put it on a Xerox, you can do 1 million of them at a point. There's no way to individually control the fact that that thing is authentic with a QR code, because it always works the same every single time. Like Jason was saying, yeah, then you could try to add a number to it and all that, and it just becomes a mess. I mean, for me, I don't want to have to take that database and that one and those and put it all together. It's an elegant solution, and it's something that everybody has access to in an easy way. You know, is the product authentic? You would never know with a QR code. Your other point of you could use them in conjunction. Yes, we could use a QR code in our hang tag to teach you how to use the tap. It's just, I'd rather just take the whole leap, right? Instead of trying to use one technology to teach people about another one. I'd rather just visually show them, hey, touch your phone to this thing, and then I don't have to try to get them to open their camera, do a QR, like, just cut to the chase, teach them how to use it, NFC tap-enabled zipper, and go.
That said, all your QR codes look great. No.
Another question?
We got like a couple minutes.
So I just am wondering, when it comes to like authenticating garments, and I know especially with outerwear, like the zipper is going to be the first thing that blows out. How do you make sure that, you know, when, especially down the road, how do you make sure that that's staying together?
Are you a plant? It's a big plant, you in the audience. Let me show you.
Where's your badge?
No, it's a super good point, and that was the problem again with like soft switch and those kinds of things. It wasn't repairable. So this is, you know, in our working with YKK in general. Oh, we'll wrap up real quick. So as part of YKK's sort of future vision of repairability, I mean, for me, I've been doing technical apparel for decades, and even in my own case, when you're out in the wilds and your zipper breaks, and we all know it's the only moving part. It is durable as YKK can be. It's still the only moving part. So I can show you. Here, we hold this. I'll talk a bit. Okay, yeah. So as part of this Touchlink technology, in a lot of our jackets, this is something you'll see from YKK if you go over to the booth. But they've been working on this a lot too. So if you know exactly how to do it and you're very careful and you use a lot of finesse. So these are actually, they've got a new technology that are wearer, user repairable. So instead of having to send your jacket back to a big facility just to replace one little zipper, you can now have 2 or 3 of these in your pack. The retailer can have them at the front desk. If you have a Touchlink zipper that you then breaks somehow, you can just get a new one and turn off your old product and turn on your new product. So as part of that authentication, once you already own an authentic product, it's not as big of a deal for me to send you something else that's authentic. But this is a world changer for all of you to make products and have to take returns just because of this little thing when the jacket that, a jacket of $150 FOB just got returned for 10 cents. This is going to be the world changer as far as long-term sustainability and user return. Yes, it costs $48 to ship it back, but also just the fact that usually when your zipper breaks, you're in a place you don't want it to break, right? So there's actually a pretty big safety component to the fact that you're not back somewhere depending on your piece of equipment, and all of a sudden the one thing that can't break did. Now you can just fix them in person, or if you're a retailer, you can really service your customer by letting them come in, replace just that piece, send them back out. It's a world changer.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening.